Hello, I'm Chuck Martin, and welcome to the Voices of the Internet of Things. With me today is Ben Kartzman, CEO and co-founder of Spongecell, an advertising technology company that specializes in data-driven campaigns. Ben has been a manager at Accenture, senior consultant at Bridgeline Software, and consultant at Seabridge Internet Solutions. Ben's area of focus involves using artificial intelligence to identify the right content for the right person at the right time. Welcome, Ben.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff. So can you give our listeners sort of a rundown of the state of where AI is today, just in general?
Yeah, so I think we're at a point now with AI where it's really in the training phase, right? People are starting to use it and starting to apply it, but a lot of it is centered around, gathering the right data to train the machines that are going to be making a lot of the decisions that we're expecting them to make, whether they're around efficiencies or optimizations or what have you. A lot of it, what we're seeing today is, we're still in the early stages of the AI revolution, if you will, and I think that's mostly because we're still looking for all of the data and still trying to capture the data to use to train the machines in the right way.
So AI has been around for many, many years. What is it kind of these days that's made it sort of come more alive?
I mean, I think some of the stuff that we're seeing, especially in the world of advertising, is it goes back again to this proliferation of data. So a lot of what we've seen in advertising is, companies have started in the late 2000s and early 2010, 2011, being built to help customers aggregate all of their CRM data and then use that to serve more relevant ads across the web. So those types of companies are now starting to get bought by the likes of Oracle and Salesforce and Adobe, and I think it's taking a lot of that data that used to be kind of hidden, if you will. It was there, but it sat in databases kind of behind firewalls where customers weren't able to utilize it for things like paid media and paid advertising. And so now those silos are getting broken down, those walls are being sort of leapt over, and now that type of data is available in a way that it never has been before. And now that that's happening, that sort of created this opportunity for AI and for techniques utilizing AI to really proliferate.
So you've been doing this, at least your company's been around since, 2005, 2006, way back then. Was that where were you then in terms of AI?
Yeah, I mean, back then there really was no AI. Everything that we did was manual. And when we pivoted the business in 2009 into advertising technology, really the same thing, right? I mean, even in 2009, 2010, a lot of it was just sort of trying to create more efficient process using software, but not necessarily using AI to allow marketers to build better creative, for the web. We really, as a business in the early days, again, that data that I was talking about earlier, we didn't really have access to. It's only been in the last 3 or 4 years that data has begun to proliferate. Marketers and their agencies have started to use that data really wisely in terms of how they're buying their media and targeting their audiences. And we've moved away as an industry away from, just buying sites and towards really trying to buy audiences. And now that stuff has happened, that really is the beginnings of what's allowed us to take advantage of AI, especially from a creative perspective.
So is this getting to the point where advertising is going to be just totally automated?
We're not there yet. I mean, we are definitely not there yet. I think that the stuff that is being automated today is more around optimization. So more around, okay, we're seeing these creatives work. What are the characteristics of these creatives that are making them work? And then how can we use that data to start to optimize and make sure the right creatives are getting in front of the right people? All of that said, it still requires humans to generate those creatives or come up with those ideas. Now, there are companies out there that are trying to generate taglines and trying to assemble creative using AI. So there are sort of early attempts at doing that. But it is very, very early days. And, you're only seeing that happen with pure performance-based advertisers. I mean, that is not, brand marketers are nowhere close to allowing, software to, write taglines and generate creative. It's really only starting to happen with like I said, the more performance-based guys.
So are the machines really learning now?
Yeah, from a personalization perspective, they are. From a media targeting and optimization perspective, they are. I mean, there's so much data on a daily, hourly basis, even that's running through, in the advertising space, what's known as the sort of programmatic pipes, where some of the bigger systems out there are seeing who's winning bids, why are they winning bids, what's the information in those bids that's causing them to win, which are the characteristics of different bids that won and lost that actually drive performance. So there is a lot of data out there now that is being analyzed. It's being analyzed by, some of the larger players in the space. And it's absolutely, a part of, what the promise of programmatic that some marketers are realizing today.
So give me an example of what this looks like. A brand or someone comes to you and says, I want to tap into some of this new value proposition. What happens?
Sure. So, what they'll do is they'll use. So I'll give you an example where, let's say you're a supermarket and you've got, loyalty card members that you have data on. You've got, thousands, tens of thousands of stores across the country, and then you've got offers that rotate in, tens of thousands of offers that rotate in, weekly. So what happens now is that marketer really wants to go out and match a bid request. So they go out, they'll use a DSP or a demand side platform to go out and find that specific customer. So they've now found that specific customer. They place a bid to go win that customer because they know it's that customer. They're going to bid high because they know that's high value for them. Okay, now they've won that bid, and at impression time in milliseconds, they'll then call a company like ours, pass us that data that says, hey, we found this customer. We'll then do a lookup, again, within those milliseconds, say, okay, who's this customer? What are the products that they should be shown? What location are they in? We'll then package up a piece of creative in real time and serve that back to them all through the ad tag. So now the end result is this is a customer who's hit a web page or is on their phone and in either inside of an app or on the web in their phone, and now they're seeing an ad with real time information on products that are relevant for them. And pricing that is consistent with those products that are tied to different weekly specials.
So could that be done without AI?
It's almost impossible for that to be done without AI because of the sheer volume of the possible combinations that can get generated, and then the optimization that happens within that. So if you think about, let's say there were 3 million loyalty card members and 1,500 stores and 25,000 weekly products, and they all rotated each week. There's hundreds of quintillions of possible ad combinations each week that could be generated. That is impossible to do, without sophisticated software.
And what's the customer viewpoint of this? Do you have any feedback on that or any data?
Yeah, so one of the things it's a great question. One of the things that we've seen is when you look at what customers want and customers' attitudes towards personalization specifically, you see a trend where customers really actually want more personalization because they're seeing it as more relevant. And it's actually 10% of customers that see personalization as an opportunity where they benefit from it. So they're looking forward to it. They actually get excited by it because they know that's something of real value to them. And that's really what personalization in marketing really is all about. It's focusing on making that a unique experience for the customer, something that has utility for the customer and is not just a wasted ad impression.
So how does a customer know when they're getting that experience versus an experience where they're getting an ad that's just irrelevant to them?
I mean, I think it's all about the most basic form of something relevant is, all the retargeting stuff that we see on the web and have seen for the last few years, right? Oh, I looked at that product. Now I'm seeing it again. that's not necessarily that high impact, but it's a sign of what a customer would recognize. What we really want to get to is a state where the customer is not even thinking that, oh, this is a personalized ad for me. The customer is just seeing an ad that is so relevant for them, it actually now feels like content because it's something they want to consume. It reminds them to take an action to go buy something or to go visit a store or whatever the case may be. So we're actually trying to move the conversation away from this, I would say, not great experience of retargeting and into something that's entirely different, where it's really just about a personalized message with personalized products that to a consumer just looks and feels like content.
So is there a solution to the issue right now where a consumer looks at something online, a product, and then they go about their business, and they're out in the marketplace, they go to a store, buy it for cash, and then still for a week on Facebook, they're getting ads for that same thing that they already bought?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges of the personalization space today is connecting, and it's not even just personalization, but I think it's the blend of what digital media provides to a marketer, and that is what the industry calls it's multi-touch attribution. So exactly what you said. Can I measure someone that was exposed to my creative, maybe traditionally, but certainly digitally, where it actually can be measured, and then can I correlate that back to an in-store purchase? So, a great example of that is one of the leading telcos in the U.S. I was with the CMO, and he said to me, "Listen, we're very focused on digital. We're pushing as much of our media into digital as we possibly can because it's more measurable than anything that we've had to date." He said, but my challenge is I only do 5% of my business digitally, meaning only 5% of my customers sign up for phone plans or buy new phones, on the web or in my app. Now that's going to quadruple, but that's still only going to be 20%. How about the other 80% of people that come into my store and buy? What were they exposed to? Which creatives have they seen? What got them into store? And that is not something that the industry has solved yet, but there are a lot of companies that are vigorously trying to solve that problem.
Well, that sounds like the whole retail issue where 90+% of stuff is still bought in physical stores, but all the action, Black Friday, Black Monday, Cyber Monday, all the action seems to be online.
Yeah, I think that's because, digital is measurable, right? And it's a more measurable advertising medium than anything we've ever seen before. So there's this expectation that we can tie it all back to what people are doing in the physical world, where, as you said, the vast majority of purchases are made. So that's, like I said, I think that's something that the industry is going to take the next, probably 5 to 10 years to try to solve. But you're going to see the biggest companies in the world. Look at what Oracle's doing with their data cloud. A huge premise of that business is helping advertisers do exactly what we're talking about. So I think there's been a big focus of it on in the industry, and I think that will only continue to be.
So where's the sweet spot right now? Is it using AI for customer acquisition, for serving an audience better, for something else? Where's the real value, at least today?
Yeah, I think it really is more around learning what works from an acquisition perspective, and then doing more of that. So that's really where we're seeing. That's kind of the most overt way to think about how AI is playing a role in advertising today specifically. But there's also this other side where there's a bunch of data and signals that we're learning about what isn't working, right? Or things that could work, but we didn't think were going to work. So for example, an advertiser sets up a very simple campaign to say, okay, I want to run 9 different creatives across people in 3 different geographic territories across wide different different age ranges. And they think that these particular creatives are going to work well in the Northeast to millennials. But what they find is actually if they ran these creatives, which they didn't actually do, but this other set of creatives, they actually would have performed better. And part of that is helping to round out the story to marketers of not only what is working and optimizing towards that, but also what could be working.
And how are the brands with that? Because some of them presumably have an intuition that such a thing will work, as you just described, and then your AI goes in and says, no, that's really not the thing that works. They take that okay?
I mean, I think that's part of the education, right? It's part of, and this is not just an advertising thing, but this is, AI in general, right? It's like the Times article from this weekend about, how humans are at Amazon are working more closely with robots. And certainly in the beginning, there's this fear over robots taking jobs, but what you're seeing is people are starting to adapt to, working with robots and managing robots and so on. So I think the same thing happens in advertising where it's new. And anytime you introduce a new concept, you're always going to have people that are going to reject it because of the threat it poses. But as long as we as humans can learn to, learn from what AI is telling us and use it as something that can, supplement some of our ideas, we think it's actually going to drive a proliferation of creative. Because now, as a creative, I'm no longer limited to, oh man, I've got to hone down to this one idea that really works for everyone. Now, maybe there's 1,000 ideas that they're gonna work for 1,000 different, target groups that we're going after and trying to reach. That's actually really exciting from a creative perspective. It's different. It's not what it used to be, but I think it can be very exciting.
So that sounds like AI could actually be used for product development.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a whole nother path to go down too, where you're seeing, okay, people are responding to this, but it's not actually something that we offer. Is there something there? And then being able to learn from that beyond just, okay, we can be better marketers, but we can actually service people with our customers with better products that they actually want.
You did something with the Tennessee Department of Tourism Development, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what we saw there was being able to, and this is more of a brand campaign, but really being able to drive, moving images, right? Like video of things that were interesting to people based on their demographic data, based on where they were. So as a marketer, Tennessee Department of Tourism knew who they were going after. They knew the regions that they wanted to target because they know, 90+% of people that come to their state drive to their state, so that they have a good set. They already had a good sense and a good intuition based on years and years of marketing their state. So that was the entry point, and that was a critical way to sort of set up the rest of the campaign. But what they did really that was really smart was then they extended that, right? So they said, okay, even though you're all coming from Chicago and you're going to drive to Tennessee, we know you're most likely going to come to this city, but some of you might be interested in sports, some might be interested in culture, some might be interested in entertainment, and some might be interested in nightlife. And so we can mix and match the story based on what we know about you. And that was a really smart way to use the technology to generate a more personalized message.
So is that what they did in terms of they basically targeted people differently using your stuff?
Exactly. So based on demographic data that they had in conjunction with the geographic data that they were buying media against, they were able to actually serve more relevant and personalized messages.
So previously they would have had to essentially give almost the same message to everybody and just cross their fingers?
Pretty much.
Wow, that doesn't sound like a good marketing strategy. Although if it's all you have.
Yeah, I think when we were in a world, maybe they would create 2 or 3 different versions, but even then, you're creating 2 or 3 different versions to send to, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, right? Like the more granular we can get, the better, and that only comes with technology. So it was great that they got excited by this and adopted this. But this really was the right way to think about it and go about it.
So lastly, where do you see AI going over the next several years?
But I think it's a great question. I mean, I think there is, in the next few years, there are going to be so many applications to AI that just goes way above and beyond the world that we live in. So like into medicine, into education, into law enforcement. I just think the thing that's going to really control it and drive it is as it proliferates more into our society is is what governments are going to do about it, right? How much free reign will government, you've got Elon Musk on one side saying, hey, rein it in before it gets out of control. And then you've got, other people on the other side saying, no, if computers can do it better, let them do it. So I think that's more than the next few years, but I think that's going to be the most interesting part of this journey that we as a society are going to go on is, how much of, how much of this is going to be regulated, how much of it needs to be regulated, and how much are we authorized to actually regulate it.
Thank you, Ben Kartzman, and thank you all for listening to the Voices of the Internet of Things.